Greetings and salutations, folks. We're back with more Dungeons and Dragons. Waha.
Hooray!
Huzzah. When last we met with our party, you guys had arrived at the Temple of the Water Dragon. Temple of the... What was it? The Silent Voice, I think, or something like that?
The
Submerged Voice. That's what it is. Submerged Voice. I'm awake.
This episode brought to you by coffee and copious amounts of it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Anywho, Ingeir had, this is after much stuff, finishing up things in Sultesh for a bit. Ingeir got to see the master of martial arts whom they studied under, and that conversation went swimmingly, I think.
Ah, yes.
What do you mean to my little buddy?
Glix thinks it did, you know.
Yeah.
Master Kava does not like Ingeir at all.
That's because she's terrible.
That's one point. I guess you could describe her as that way if you really wanted to.
I think it's I don't know. As far as Glix is concerned, she's terrible.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Anywho, yes, and you were shown back. Guest rooms were made available to the party, and Ingeir was said that he could use his cell, or he could stay with the party, either or, his choice. And that is where we left off, if my memory serves.
That, I believe, is correct.
Excellent.
At least as far as the notes go.
So, the first thing that happens is after you guys have had a little bit of time to settle in, one of the older disciples who studies under Master Kava shows up at your cell, Ingeir, and says, Ingeir, Brother Ingeir, Master Kava would like to have a bit of a conversation with you before everything else, a little bit later on, if you have the time.
Ingeir's kind of like, there's that reflexive kind of like freeze for a moment, and then Ingeir's, of course, Master Kava. I can make time for Master Kava.
Excellent. She is in her meditation chambers.
I will let her know that I will be there briefly. I need to change, as Ingeir motions down to the fact he's still wearing the borrowed hand-me-down fire disciple robes,
right?
That are probably causing a bit of a stir in the temple.
People are very, very, very pointedly not looking at them for the time being.
What is he wearing? I know, right?
So they do. The other monk bows to you and walks off.
Ingeir has briefly stopped down in his cell to get a change of clothes, and to make sure he still has his whatever meager personal possessions he has are still there.
They are,
and that
they have been.
He has not already been left for dead.
Nope.
After that, on the way out, he does respectfully nod to Elder Beery, head of the librarian, and gives her a brief hello, and then heads to.
So I have a question for you.
Yes.
Do you want Sito to be along the way?
Sito can be along the way as much as he wants, assuming Sito's not somewhere that probably shouldn't be the temple.
I'm a bard, not a rogue.
This is true.
I'm a warlock, but I'm definitely somewhere I'm not supposed to be in the temple.
Oh yeah. Meanwhile, in the wine cellar.
Let me rephrase that. I'm a bard and not a goblin.
True, a goblin bard would probably be a funny way to get themselves into trouble.
Mm-hmm.
So on his way, obviously on his way up the up the stairs and through the various, corridors that he would have to take to get up to Master Kava. Ingeir runs into Sita.
This place is terrible. There are so many stairs.
Ingeir just kind of like nods. He's like, yeah, we do have the elevator that goes directly to the top, but that's about it.
How do I gain the authority to take that over forever?
I mean, we're
Well-
underwater. You can just hire a crab to carry you around.
We're not underwater.
You just kind
The
of shrug. It's
facility
like,
is underwater, but we are not submerged. If we were, I wouldn't have a problem.
We are submerged. We're just in a little bubble of air. You need a crab.
Ingeir just kind of looks at Sita and shrugs. Like, you want to fight the current abbot of the temple in a duel to the death?
No, I want to fight your architect.
I'm pretty sure the architect was thrown down the stairs after this quest was completed.
You know, I'd accept that.
Insert the sumo wrestler falling down the long stairs and Surf Ninjas.
Oh, jeez, I haven't even seen that.
So,
Man, I forgot Surf Ninjas existed.
Yeah, I never saw it.
but you mean the martial arts movie starring Rob Schneider?
Let's not.
Cigarettes? I know I should quit.
This all sounds about as appealing as stairs.
But Leslie Nielsen plays the villain.
Anyway,
Are you all resting well? I don't. We don't usually have visitors for very long here.
What do you guys do for entertainment? It's very boring here.
I've certainly attained the impression of visitors are uncommon.
Mm-hmm.
I've been getting observed in manners that I'm not actually used to. It's not unwelcome, but it is a bit unnerving.
You know, this whole setup you got here, yeah, it's certainly not a hotel type of vibe here, and I'm not, and I don't, and there's not even a place where I can leave a review for it for others to know about. So it is what it is.
How did this turn from Cetos along the way to fucking everyone?
I mean, I guess the way Ingeir phrased the question, I thought it was to everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought we were still in the room talking. Sorry.
Yeah.
I apologize. There's this. We are very austere here. Fun isn't very much of a. Well, there is fun, but not much of fun.
I imagine
Yeah.
there's a given variety. So,
Yes.
what do they have you going off for? You seem perturbed.
Master Kava has asked to speak to me before I present my reports.
That was the oppressive one, yes?
Yes, that would be the large, red dragonborn. She is the head of our martial arts academy, which makes her one of the more forceful dragons here in the temple.
Hmm.
She's
Seeing how she's such a driving force in a, let's say, non-inspirational manner for you. Do you want me on hand just in case?
and Ingeir thinks for a moment, and he's like, Master Kava did not ask to see me alone. We could, if you'd like to accompany me.
From the time I've been here, what seems to be the local instrument?
The local instrument, there's probably it's what is it, like a samisen, like one of those traditional like Chinese string.
Oh,
instruments?
Thomas is a Japanese stringed instrument.
Yeah, Thomason's
yeah.
the Japanese one. Doo-doo.
I mean, I imagine it's the sound of fist hitting skin.
Yes, there's quite a bit of that, except down in the down in the temple and in the libraries.
My
Well, there's
head
a whole-
goes to sitar. Is it sitar?
That's Indian.
Yeah,
There's
they
a
use-
I
Chinese
figure it's
stringed
close
instrument,
enough.
Yeah.
There are a lot of horizontally stringed instruments that are very similar across multiple cultures.
Guzheng.
Guzheng, that's it. Yes.
That's probably what you're thinking about.
So what you do is you get one of those triangular lute style things that the Mongolians use.
Oh boy.
Yeah, we're totally interested to play the entire discography of the Who.
Yeah, like imagine the soundtrack of any quiet part of any Wujai movie. That is probably what it sounds like right now.
All right. This is not an instrument she's particularly familiar with, but she's been kind of messing around with one, and she has string familiarity, so she's kind of just experimenting with it.
Okay.
Very well.
Ingeir,
Perhaps I could dull the tension with a sour note or two.
Ingeir kind of like, smiles and gives her a nice bow. Like that would be appreciative. I kind of dreading facing her alone. And then he motions to the stairs, which are, and then he motions to the elevator that's up just one flight of stairs that will take them up to the martial arts
What
academy.
is the point?
Ingeir is trying to intentionally antagonize Cedo.
That's not how I'm taking it. It's just like, why would you put stairs in front of an elevator? Just like stairs to an elevator. Why?
The elevator stops down in the living area where the kitchen stuff are at. There's no reason to bring anything else down lower than that. So
It's just a mental image to me. It's just like a staircase literally to an elevator. Like there's nothing else. It's just there. I imagine that's a nightmare Cedo has from now and then.
finally an elevator and it goes down one floor and more stairs. What?
Well, Cedo will take this opportunity to make use of the ring,
Yep. Floaty.
which
There is an elevator, but it's powered from the inside, and the way you move it is by walking up a conveyor belt of stairs.
Powered by pedals. You have to climb up on top of one of those stationary bicycles.
It's like a stairmaster.
Yeah.
Anywho,
yeah, I think I've said this before, but this was based off basically like a variant of Tensor's floating disk.
Yep.
Which I have decided upon Cedo's floating surfboard.
okay.
Oh. Whoosh.
Very well. Anyways, you arrive at the elevator and it goes up to the upper floors, and you're in the martial arts academy section. Nobody's really paying a lot of attention. There's a lot of training and of various sorts going on right now.
Even while strumming away.
Oh, they're very focused.
All right, just checking.
Ingeir just takes a look around.
Pointedly ignoring the weirdo on the flying silver surfboard playing a guitar. Yes.
Didn't say it was silver. You stop that.
At any rate,
Yeah.
yes,
I'm the herald for no one but myself.
fair. Anyways,
I am
you. Sorry, go ahead, Ingeir.
I am the herald of me.
All right, so you arrive at the outer chamber before Master Kava's meditation chamber. There are a pair of monks who are sort of kneeling on either side of the door into her chamber. They both sort of rise. They both rise to their feet when Ingeir enters and says, "Ah, Ingeir, Master Kava is expecting you."
That is what I was told.
They both sort of look sort of confusedly at Sito. And then back at Ingeir.
I'm simply taking in as much of the local culture as I can. Please do not mind me. Strum.
They sort of they have this look of this.
This is highly unorthodox.
Ingeir just kind of looks at them. She's a guest, and Mr. Kava did not instruct me to come alone. I see no reason to tell her to
We
leave.
were not informed that you were. We were not informed either way. So we'll leave that up to Master Kava to handle. You may enter.
Look, Strum.
They're
We
like,
do so.
Master Kava didn't actually specify anything about whether he could bring anybody. So technically, we're okay.
Oh yeah, they
And
they
that'll
know
fly
what
with
they're in
Master
for.
Kava, right?
Yeah, like they know what they're in for.
So you open the door, and Master Kava is sitting there meditating. Ingeir
Ingeir,
and guest apparently.
Ito,
Ingeir,
songstress of the sea.
Ah,
A pleasure.
Ingeir approaches, keeping a respectful distance, and gives Master Kava the respectful bow that she is entitled to. Notice I did not say deserve.
Zito will make a appointed pause in the music, to perform, the affectation of a bow, biology, in time with the music without it seeming disruptive to the tune.
okay. Master Kava sort of steeples her fingers for a moment, taps them together a bit. So you brought someone with you. Interesting. She rises to her feet gracefully, nods her head at you. So, Ingeir. You have returned, and have you made progress in your assigned task? I'm
In a
not asking.
manner
I'm not asking for a full report right now. Obviously, that you're going to be making that before the full council. Just want a. I think it would be helpful if you were to give me the highlights, I guess, or a quick sketch of what progress you've made.
Progress that I have made. As Ingeir looks up, is like, as you know, you asked me to investigate some irregularities involving portals and their location. As I went to the town of, let me find. Hopefully, I wrote it down.
Yeah, what the hell was that place called?
We actually named the town.
It was
Oh, God.
It was Outpost 13 was the first place you started.
Outpost 13. Thank you. As we came to Outpost 13, I did some measurements before heading into town, and it is true that the portal there is not quite where it's supposed to be, but it is not in a regular location. However, through the journey I have just been through, I can confirm that there are quite a few portals that are not where they're supposed to be, and there are some brand new. Something that isn't supposed to happen.
Gates, just FYI.
Yes, Gates.
Interesting.
Some of these have been the result of the death of nearby divine instruments.
I see.
At this point, Ingeir starts going to the story of the fire temple and how they went down there and they found the cultist of Eucharia, and how that culminated in the destruction of Eucharia's tree avatar or whatever
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
and how that caused a massive earthquake in the area and created a gateway out of nowhere.
I did that.
Master Kava sort of crosses her arms, cocks her head to one side. Did it?
I can most certainly confirm this.
At this,
Master
at
Kava
this-
sort of snorts briefly, shoots a slightly irritated look at Sito.
yes, I am giving you the brief version of this, of course.
I appreciate that. We don't. I don't have a lot of time right now for full details. Also, as I said, that should be saved for the full council, obviously.
Suffice to say, that is not the only time that has happened since I have been gone.
That is very interesting. I look forward to hearing the full explanation of what happened at the council. But so that that you have made some progress there. It does seem to be some drift in the gates, and there are new ones.
Some are just gone.
Interesting. If true, very interesting.
In fact, Sito motions over. I mean, not.
Ingeir.
Ingeir motions over to Sito. I'll decide which character I'm playing.
Oh, will you?
In fact, my companion here was with me when this happened. We were traveling through the ocean around a island to where we were told a gate may be located.
Mm-hmm.
And when we came there, all we found was the destruction, a destroyed city. But at the center, there seemed to be some kind of force drawing life out of the area. There were no beasts, there were no fish, there were no plants.
The structure was there, but that which it needs to support its effort, shall we say, was insufficient.
Well, that sort of thing is more in the abbot's wheelhouse than mine, shall we say? But it is interesting if true. Again, very well. That is enough for me to. It's enough for me for now. On that topic. So I look forward to hearing the full details at the council meeting. Very well. Ingeir, I also wish to know, what have you improved your martial techniques whilst you've been gone?
I have been practicing as best as I could and meditating when I can. I have learned a few new tricks.
Good.
Oh dear.
She has a bit of a predatory grin on her face.
Here comes the punch.
Excellent. Excellent. Good to hear, Ingeir. Very well. Well, she sort of looks, you hear a gong chiming. And she, yes. Well, it is time for me to lead some lessons. Ingeir, I would be most appreciative if you would accompany me, and I would like to see firsthand your improved skills.
Ingeir just bows. He cannot deny her this request. He's like,
Excellent.
of course.
Sito, was it correct?
That would be correct.
If you
yes.
wish, you are welcome to observe the training session. If you
I
so
do
choose.
appreciate your permission.
Excellent. It's not something that is always open to outsiders, but I think this should be illustrative. Come,
As
Ingeir.
I informed the kind vigil outside, I am simply taking in as much of the local culture as I can while I'm here.
Fascinating. Come, Ingeir. We have a class to lead. All right. While that's happening, what is everybody else doing?
My guess as for what Cameron might be doing with Glix is just the standard routine of progressively proposing more inane, dangerous antics for the two to get up to. It's like,
How many monks can we fleece today?
Pretty
no,
much.
no.
Also,
that
where do they keep their treasure? We got to find out where they keep their treasure. Temples always have treasure.
Glix, it's one thing when it's an abandoned temple or something. It's different when you're stealing from like actual people that aren't like rich or the police. You know,
I think they're pretty rich. Look at this place.
I
A rock
Like-
balls.
like, irrespective. You know, I was more interested in asking about your thoughts about learning how, picking up throwing axes as a hobby. Is all. You know,
I'm pretty sure I can do that.
right. Now we don't have any apples around here to put on your head for target, though, so we're gonna have to look for something else. I think.
Why are we putting it on my head? We can put it on your head.
I mean, we could.
You're taller, so
Good.
it'll be a better. It'll be better.
Yeah, but see, that makes it hard. I would make me worried about you throwing an axe up towards my head and hitting the apple.
It's
though.
a better show. Everyone will be much more entertained.
We'll need a stool for you to stand on, so it's a little bit easier.
I don't need a stool.
What if we make it a stool that like was missing a leg, so it was wobbly, and you had to like really work hard?
Yeah.
All right, then, okay, you're good with that. All right. Well, first we need axes. Then we need to find some apples.
We don't need
then we
axes.
to find-
I got an axe right here, and Bob shows up as an axe.
You need to be juggling them. Do you have 3 bobs? Can you make boblets? Can you make like multiple bobs
Boblets.
and just
Bob,
sort
can
of
you
like
do that?
No,
No.
I cannot be multiple.
Not after last time.
By the way, there are some.
I've never known which me was the real me since that day. It's
Yeah.
haunted my every moment since.
yeah.
Did I eat myself, or was I eaten by myself?
Well,
You ever
suppose-
watch yourself die? It is fascinating.
I guess the other thing we could do is, I don't know, maybe we could like spar some crap. Maybe I could see how well this thing handles, and the camera like pulls out the scimitar on his back, you know, the one that killed the god, and just sort of like gives it a few spins.
Don't.
No. We're not doing that. No.
What? Why not?
I just, dude, it killed a god. We're not fucking around with that.
By the way, there are a couple of monks sort of wandering by, also giving you guys looks occasionally.
How else am I supposed to know like how good of a weapon it is? I mean, listen, it's really old. It's one of a kind. It killed a god, probably. It can't be worth that much, Glix. You know. It's only wholly unique and unproducible. So unreproducible.
So, I guess if it's priceless, that means it's worthless. So you're right.
Right,
You should just
exactly.
give it to me.
Those terms are interchangeable. But no, I found it, so I'm going to hold on to it because I also just the way it looks on me. You know?
I mean, it is stylish.
Yeah.
Well, by the way, at one point, a kobold monk walks up and says, "Excuse me, did I overhear you were discussing practicing throwing weapons?"
Yeah, let's see what you got.
Oh, well, I was just saying that there's a. If you're interested, there's a small group of practicing various throwing techniques in the chamber, a couple chambers down. If you would like to come along, and if you're interested in participating, you're more than welcome to join in.
Yeah. Let's go check it out.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Throwing hand axes
Kalia,
is,
come
in
on.
fact, a good monk option.
Yes.
So,
I will.
Also, hand axes are pretty much like the like weapon of choice in triad movies. So
We Axe
I
Gang never
will-
miss.
I will limit my participation to observing.
That's fine. Just come along with. Of
yeah.
course, it can happen.
Also, where do you guys keep your booze?
Booze? Oh, alcohol.
Yeah.
We don't have any.
Oh, you're not those types of monks. I see.
No, we're not.
That's what I was thinking. Is like these aren't those kinds of monks.
No,
Oh, well,
no.
you know, if you need some, I might know some people that can set up bring some to you. You know, I mean, I might even have a little bit in my bag here if you're
Never mind
interested.
me.
Kalia kind of takes Glix by the shoulder and just kind of leads him to where they're going, away from the guy.
Cameron will actually ask the Cobalt monks, like, that reminds me. So monks, as far as my uneducated mind knows, typically have some sort of vows or tenets they follow. What are like the most important tenets that you all follow?
Well, first off, the Submerged Voice is first in our in our thoughts, etc. Ash, is there anything in particular that you would say that you personally would say that would approach this, since this is
the most important thing, aside from their devotedness to She of the Submerged Voice and her philosophies, is to embrace and try to draw out their inner dragon. And this is not something that everybody in the monastery has been able to successfully do. In fact, as you walk around, you might notice some of the like Dragonborn students kind of like bullying some of the kobolds who may not have developed quite as much as they have along the way. There's a very clear hierarchy here.
Yeah. Cameron just sort of like, yeah. It's a board. Cameron looks at it and sort of first like, it's a borderline. Cameron will say like, oh, so self-improvement, right. In his head, it's like thinking.
Yeah, absolutely, yes. Self-improvement is very important.
And in his head, Cameron's like, this is like a cult in terms of self-improvement. That's like he's not saying that out loud, but it's just like they're taking self-improvement as like an act, as a intrinsic holistic good unto itself, to the point that people who fall short in that perception there is are worth less than they intrinsically are. And then Cameron's just like, that's where Ingeir gets it from, right?
Even worse is they think the ones doing the bullying think doing the other ones a favor.
Yeah.
Trying to bring it out.
Oh, gosh, this is CrossFit, but worse. Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
There are 6 trials that a monk must endure on the path to enlightenment: deprivation, blood, pain, sacrifice, anguish, and death.
And also,
no, wait, that's Klingons.
And also not doing pull-ups properly. Like the monks are really impressive, but we ask them to do a pull-up. They'll do like 15 motions and 0 pull-ups. It's really weird.
So you guys are really into self-improvement, huh? I once heard a
Yes.
crazy man say self-improvement is masturbation.
What?
Like,
Well,
you're just like, what?
Well, you did say it was a crazy man, so
Yeah, he was a crazy man. Had his own little cult and everything.
I see.
Anyways,
you walk into a room where there are several monks of various types, mostly Dragonborn and kobolds, doing various throwing weapon techniques. Some of them doing somewhat impressively acrobatic ones. They are kung fu monk types, so
Right.
And the kobold walks in and says, brothers, these 2 traveling companions of Ingeir apparently were talking about doing some demonstrations of throwing techniques of, knocking, like, what did you say, was it apples off of heads and such?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Any small fruit-like object would suffice. Yes.
Excellent.
Fruit-like object.
Pears, oranges, clementines,
chocolate oranges and foil.
Cherries, outright no. Really, really big strawberries, maybe.
Tomatoes, well, we gotta get into a real debate about that.
I want to see Ingeir balance a watermelon.
If it's a
What is
square
the
watermelon
watermelon for?
I don't remember
Tell you
telling you to put those on.
We're not doing the Gallagher routine here, folks. Okay.
I think we just went through 3 different references about watermelons in a row there. That
we
were
did.
completely unrelated.
That's really
all of which were completely
Right,
unrelated.
sounds
Yes.
about right.
At any rate, fruit is produced Unstable objects you stand on are produced. Hand axes are produced.
All
I
right.
got my own.
All right. So Cameron then just leaves it to Glix like, well, we should have been practicing this first, but who wants to go first?
Actually,
I'll go.
if you're volunteering,
I'll go first.
if you're,
Put the fruit on your head.
Oops.
Sorry.
sorry, was that Eric?
I'll throw first. You put the fruit on your head.
All right. Cameron messes with Glix's hat before.
I'm pretty
getting-
sure this is the way Gowan and the Green Knight starts.
Cameron's just like, this is a bad idea, but I'm doing this for you. And he messes with Glix's hat again, and then
Why do
goes
you
to get
keep
into
doing
position.
that?
Because you keep responding that way. It's funny.
I'll give you something to respond to. He's sort of hefts Bob.
All right.
All right.
All right. I guess Glix. Is there anything you want to do other than just throw the axe?
Kalia gets out a first aid kit and puts it on the floor next to her.
There's a really big band-aid.
Yeah, I'm gonna do an underhanded throw under my leg at it.
Okay. Just give me an attack roll.
Well, by the way, before you do that, I am. Let me double check my. Where's my maneuvers here? Yeah, I'm using my tactical commander ability to use the help action to give you advantage in the attack roll.
Nice. I love it.
Fair enough.
I'm just like, look, the important thing to remember, okay? It's all about the wrist at the release point, okay? I don't care what else you do to wind up for it. Just make sure you
By the
look
way-
where you're throwing
Yep.
and release.
All the monks nod sagely along with, yes, this is wise.
Well, now I'm gonna have to do it blindfolded.
This is not wise. Like all the sagacious nodding.
Oh dear
suddenly
lord,
pauses.
27. Oh, the Glix leaps under the thing, snaps his wrist perfectly. Bob sails through the air, cleaves the grapefruit in twain, and comes sailing back to Glix's hand perfectly.
All right.
There is a brief round of very respectful applause. Excellent technique.
We'll bow.
Sort of basically a golf clap, you know.
Right.
That was easy enough.
Your technique was adequate.
My technique was fucking excellent.
Yes, adequate.
That's what I said. Adequate.
That is a high bar. Anything short of amazing is inadequate. Well,
We are talking about Kung Fu monks here.
Right.
I suppose we
No,
are only level
didn't do any
5.
flips. 6 out of 10.
A lack of flippy bullshit. Got it.
Crappy gold star. You tried.
No. This was definitely a passing grade.
These guys have watched too many Young Bucks matches.
All right. Yeah. I'm going to. I'm going to ask: Is Cameron going to throw now?
I mean, I Cameron looks at Glix and it's just like, I mean, do you want me to try to do it back to you now at this point, or are you happy now at this point?
I mean, you could throw at one of those guys.
Oh, absolutely. Says one of the Dragonborn. At which point he grabs a sort of grabs an apple or something, like a different fruit, some random other fruit. Hops up onto the stool, places the fruit on his head, and basically sort of assumes a standing sort of meditative pose with like one of his legs crossed over the leg he's balancing on.
Cameron just looks at Glix and just like, it just gives him just one of those looks like, dude, you're making this worse for me, actually.
I give him a big old grin.
Fine.
You gave very excellent advice before. Your knowledge at least on this subject is excellent. I look forward to seeing your attempt.
Right. I'm borderline thinking, does Cameron have like one of those like tactical daggers, like like a military dagger on him? No, but it's like okay, fine.
No, not only is it all in the wrist, you got to let the axe do its thing. You got to let it do what it wants to do.
Right.
There's more
So-
nodding and wise. Yes.
Yeah. Cameron's going to pick up an appropriate weapon, like a light enough weapon that it's not a strength focused throw.
Fair enough. You're going for a dex focus one. That's totally understandable.
Yeah. And then
So you grab a dagger or something like that.
Yeah. Yep. And then let's see here. Oh, do I have one in here? Yeah, I don't have it. See, is it? Yeah, it's simple. So we'll just do. I'll do a roll. It's using the rapier stat line, but it's going to be basically.
Yeah, that's fine.
There.
We're just get 23.
23.
The dagger sails through the air, skewers the fruit, sending it and it sort of falls behind him, and he sort of flicks his tail up, bats it up in the air back into his hand.
Cameron
Very nice.
will follow
Again-
that. Yeah. Cameron will follow that up by then just saying, the biggest mistake that's made with throwing is that people think it's all about the arm. A throw is a thing that the body does. It begins with the feet, and you're progressively taking the large muscles and translating their momentum to smaller and smaller muscles. So by the time your wrist is releasing, all you're doing is aiming, and you're not actually forcing the throw.
Yes.
The importance is economy of motion. You don't want to do things that strain and injure yourself if you plan on doing this for any length of time. Wonder if I
Blix
should.
has developed a glazed look of okay, sure.
The moment your friends have shown that they are much cooler than you are.
Yes.
I don't think a roll is necessary to determine how what impression Cameron and Glitch are making on the audience.
No,
though.
they approve of you. They approve of what you are currently doing, and you both seem reasonably knowledgeable and are very clearly adequately skilled.
We're really good at bullshitting away through shit we know nothing about. Gotcha.
Well, I mean, Cameron is basically right. I mean, as were you largely.
Kalia is like just keeping her very quietly to herself in the corner. It's like, oh man, I've got completely different philosophy on combat than all these guys do.
Yeah, well, actually, one of the monks approaches Kali and says, were you just here to observe, or are you interested in participating?
If I participate, someone will be gruesomely injured.
A pragmatic sort. Understandable.
If
My instinct, if someone places an apple on their head and tells me to aim for it, is to avoid hitting it because it's a distraction from getting me to kill them.
Interesting.
Way to
What
kill the
if-
mood.
what if the apple? What if the apple was evil though?
Yeah, what if it's like one of those like bug things that control your brain?
Have you encountered such a thing before?
There's stories that got to be out there. I mean,
Okay.
we came here on a giant stone turtle.
So she starts going off, and all she knew was the first 3 words. There are stories. All right.
So, but yeah, Cameron just sort of like rolls his shoulders a bit and then just ponders the situation. Here's like, so what? So, how much do y'all spend training around here?
That depends entirely on which sort of what your focus as a monk is. I mean, some of us do focus more on the martial aspects of our training. Some are more philosophical. Some are more academic. But we do. There's a fair bit of cross training across all of it. But it depends what your focus is.
I see.
You know, whether you're working on improving, whether you're working on bringing your inner dragon out through physical techniques, or through improving your mind, or through working on the sort of your soul, your inner being, as it were.
All right.
What I find is really good for that kind of stuff? Games of chance.
Like, it's just there's like a sideways fall over motion kind of happening from that. Just like
So, anyways,
8 hours later, oh boy, the orphans are going to be hungry tonight.
But like, Cameron's like, so. I guess the question is how much energy is spent towards that self improvement. I mean, like, if all you're worried about is progressively getting better, then what happens if you hit a plateau? What if you aren't able to do that?
well, you look for other ways to improve. Obviously, if there is no further way to improve, well, then I suppose you have found your limits and have found what your place is, and it has not been our experience in general in this temple for people to have completely hit a wall. But there are many who have chosen to take up more administrative assistant or assistive help roles within the temple after failing to make significant progress, any further significant progress.
See.
Yeah, it sounds boring, but I guess you could get really good at, like, doing numbers and shuffling paperwork. I mean, I guess that would be a way of improvement, too. Just
In theory,
boring.
it is a... I do not think it would be... It does not... It would not fit into sort of the teachings of this of our patron, as it were. But yes, technically that would be a method of self-improvement. But we are all looking to improve and sort of release our inner dragon, as it were. And that is trying to become more akin to and more in line with the Submerged Voice.
Dragon of Data Collary. Woo! I'm just saying, it's probably a thing. Is it not a thing? Sort of looks around the room.
There's a lot of we should be polite to the outsider.
Right. Well. Well, is there anything further that you wish to kind of go over in terms of the practice or demonstration?
Oh well, they proceeded to say, well, we if you would like to observe, we can demonstrate our throwing techniques that are slightly different than yours, but I think you might find them interesting.
Yeah, that should be fun. Let's do that.
All right, so they proceed to start putting on very kung fu monk acrobatic-y displays of various sorts.
You saying about economy of movement there?
Oh no, the flip through the air is a way to generate more force.
Yeah, it's basically what it is that as you spin, you create angular momentum, and you're able to translate that angular momentum into just another form of kinetic energy at the point of release.
It's basic trigonometry.
Listen,
In
the only
addition-
trigonometry I know is the kind that attached to a crossbow or a gun.
In either case, though, it's a similar principle. They're not throwing with their arms; they're throwing with their bodies.
Indeed.
You guys ever think about, like, doing a show? I mean, you could charge a fair amount,
Why?
Lots of people out there would want to see it.
Why?
Oh, because you could spend the money to, like, get better food and, like, send out more researchers to other places and get nicer clothes that help you move better, yeah? And, that kind of stuff.
Uh-huh. We will take that into consideration. Anyways, here's another really cool throwing technique.
Kalia will kind of say in a little aside to Glix, when your only goal in life is to improve yourself, the question eventually may be asked, and it may seem pointless to them, but what do you use all that skill for?
I mean, there's got to be a point to it, right?
For them, it is the point in and of itself.
Huh. But which is saying you could leverage this stuff to improve things, make things a little cushier.
If the
Maybe expand the barracks and get more students. Stuff that that kind of good non-profit driven stuff that's weird.
when the goal is self-improvement, I think what is being said here is that what you care about is just enough to keep going and working on that goal, and anything more than that is what, superfluous?
Yes, I suppose it'd be superfluous to help people.
Yeah.
All right. We're gonna cut back to Sito and Ingeir. Ingeir, I would like to give me an acrobatics roll and an attack roll.
Acrobatics and attack.
Yep.
We joined this combat already in session.
Yeah, this is sort of I want to. Yeah, basically.
Give
Give yourself advantage on them, by the way. I forgot to mention.
Oh, advantage on that one. Okay, let me do another one.
We were on pain delay earlier, but now we were able to resume.
All right.
The fight
There we go.
already.
That's
25.
significant better.
21. All right. And your attack roll?
Attack roll. Advantage on that as
Yep.
well. Does it matter if he uses the hammer for the +1?
You've. This is supposed to be unarmed.
Unarmed. All right, good.
A crit.
Oh,
Nicely
You
done.
need advance for that one there, so.
I was thinking about, it's like, do I throw bardic inspiration to this moment? Nah, you got it.
All right. All right. So, basically, the lesson starts out with Master Kava sort of doing sort of some basic instruction and such, and then she moves on to, and now for a more practical demonstration, I will be sparring briefly with Ingeir. Ingeir, come at me. Show me what you have learned.
The Kill Bill sirens are going off. Oh God! Oh God!
All right. So for most of it, she is basically stopping every strike you throw with basically no seemingly real effort. But she started nodding, like, okay, yep, all right, adequate. You actually managed to land a blow, however.
And everyone goes.
She sort of stops, looks down as you at the blow you've landed, looks back at you.
Ingeir looks just as surprised.
And shows a huge grin spreads across her face, and her eyes sort of start glinting. Good. At which point she starts coming at Ingeir. Roll forward a bit. The session ends with Ingeir sort of on the ground, sort of bruised and out of breath, and Kava sort of standing there, arms crossed over, and says, "I'm actually surprised, Ingeir. You have made actual progress. Well done."
Ingeir just is like on the ground, raises his hand, kind of gives her a thumbs up as he's getting himself off the ground. Thank you, Master Kava.
You managed to land a blow. That is legitimately a significant improvement. Class, for once, you can learn something from Ingeir. Well done.
Right.
I'm so going to skin her and wear her.
Right through him.
I'm going to skin her and wear her face as a hat.
I have to raise my estimation of your ability, your upper levels of your abilities, Ingeir. I'm I'm pleasantly surprised. At any rate, the meeting with the council will be after the evening meal. You have your schedule is therefore do what you see. You are free to move about it on your own recognizance. Class is dismissed. And
Yeah.
she wanders off.
Ingeir goes to give her the bow. She's already gone.
No, she actually, when you get back up, she pauses long enough to notice that, actually. And she sketches a very brief nod at you and then walks out.
And then Ingeir goes over to Cito. He actually looks a little bit surprised. Like, I actually did it. Yes. You do a little celebratory dance there. Just utterly geeking out over the fact that he actually did Kung Fu right.
Strum, 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 strum.
So, what did you think of our little temple?
A locale such as this is certainly not something that I tend to find myself in, so it is. Something that defies my immediate articulation, but I would be able to prose about it more effectively with some thought. But as far as initial impressions, I can see why you'd want to leave.
Cheers just kind of like. I think at this point, like, he hasn't quite acknowledged the fact that, yeah, that's probably something he wants to do. He's like, huh. I mean, I guess, some people leave. He doesn't quite understand that she met him. You should go down to, we should head back to the others. I'm a little worried what Glix and Cameron are getting up to with the other monks.
Oh, knowing them, I imagine things are fine. Just fine.
There is an explosion somewhere in the building.
It has nothing to do with them, I actually know. There's what would be even better is if there was a lightning strike somewhere in the building, just as that was being said.
Well, that's
The structure is underwater. Where?
That's the thing. It's full of people that can breathe like magical lightning from their. Ingeir can literally breathe magical lightning.
Okay,
it could
that's
just be
not
from
thunder,
that.
though.
They
All right, so
breathe loud noises to make thunder, you know.
Eventually Ingeir and Cito catch up with the others who are as the acrobatic knife and axe throwing demonstrations are winding down. There's a lot of bisected and damaged fruit in the room. Also,
we'll
there are
scroll
one
over
or
to,
two of the monks look a little bit injured, but otherwise fine. By from like near misses and such. Because okay, some of the younger monks aren't as good as everybody else.
Zito will pick up a severed melon and just start to eat it.
Nobody says anything.
And I'm not letting it go to waste.
Just imagining, with just like half a watermelon.
I mean,
In
I
one
will say
hand.
this: it will eventually, the fruit will all be eventually used, but
Yeah.
the monks are not actually wasteful.
Fruit salads on the menu tonight.
All right.
Yes.
Lots of juice.
Ingeir. How went your meeting?
Ingeir shows up, obviously bruised. He's got a nice black eye. He's like, it actually went really well.
Good. Well, we must be getting off to our next lessons. It was a pleasure seeing the two of you demonstrate your techniques. They were interesting.
We could talk about CQC some other time. That would be a different topic.
I totally believe that Cameron actually knows CQC.
I'm just saying, like get a lot of bread in here if you just take it on the road.
I think. Did they have a mill and a bakery on site? I think they might be making enough bread on their own, Glix.
There's just so one of the monks runs the pantry.
No, we got plenty of bread. Our baker's very good.
Do you know him? Do you know the Muffin Man?
I was
don't want to know the
waiting
Muffin
for
Man.
it.
That guy's crazy.
Yeah. But Cameron will just nod and just offer salutations to the others as they leave. Not like salutes or stuff like just like salutations.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that actually went by a lot smoother than.
So when they mean bread, they mean actual like baked goods, not like.
Yes.
Yes.
And when they say baker, they mean like an actual person who produces baked goods and not like a fence.
Yes. I don't think they're cooking any books around here, unless those books are meant to be burned because they're heretical. But
Yes, Glix. When we say somebody is brown bread, we literally mean they have brown bread.
You guys are weird.
Well, we could question the contents of their stock portfolio at a different time.
Oh, no, never get into stocks. That shit's a racket.
Oh, you like rackets?
Presumably,
Yeah, when I'm the one benefiting.
presumably their stock portfolio would be full of celery.
Nice.
Cameron just
I didn't know you had a sense of humor.
Fine.
Yeah, that actually gets like a bit of a look from Cameron, but then just like a grin. It's like
Tito
Nice one.
actually like bucks up a note from that.
Ingeir does not get the joke.
Like,
Kali is not even selling it.
Right. No.
I know, but like, Cameron's like, nice. All right. So,
Tito just kind of like slithers over to Kalia and just kind of like looks up at her with like one hand like over like her own mouth, like ponderously.
Oh.
Do that again.
What? I didn't actually catch what you said. The last thing you said.
Oh, she said, "Do that again."
Do what?
Use a pun or play on words.
A
speaking
pun.
of celery, is Kari getting to that time of getting some food?
Celery ain't food. Celery is something you put next to food to make it seem more appetizing, because the options are eat that food or the celery. So eat the food.
In a sense, I've heard that celery actually contains like negative calories.
Sorta?
Like, as in the amount of calories that it contains, you burn more calories in the process of eating it than you get from it.
Yeah, it is kind of, but not really true. But yes, it is borderline calorie neutral in its raw form.
Yep.
Also, apparently, if you eat nothing but rabbits, the amount of nutrients in it is like not sufficient in some regards or another for you to actually subsist off of, and eating it.
Yeah,
will
there's
kill
not
you.
enough fat or complex proteins in rabbit.
Right.
So
it's not like eating. It's not like eating it is bad for you. But if you eat nothing but it, it's just not sufficient enough to subsist off of.
Yeah, the term is actually rabbit starvation. I found out about this recently.
Intriguing.
After eating several hundred rabbits.
I was like during my legendary rabbit fast, where I eat nothing but rabbit.
All you can eat rabbit buffet.
All right. So, you are brought food. You guys are not. You are brought food. It is simple but well prepared. The people who cook are working on self-improving through cooking. And while you do not get the you're not brought the food from the best of the cooks because you're guests, so you know. You get the stuff made by the like you know, sort of the mid-range student chefs, basically.
So sort of lean over to Ingeir. There aren't any like furry type rules you need to worry about, right? Like eating food here isn't gonna like bind me to their service or some bullshit.
Oh no, not at all.
Okay,
Food
cool. I immediately start like digging in like typical goblin fashion. So terrible at table manners.
as everybody's eating, Injir does bring up the fact that he has the presentation upcoming. He's like, so I need to make this report,
Uh-huh.
and he looks at everybody. He's like, is there anything I shouldn't say?
I mean,
Maybe keep quiet about my whole deal with the fairies. That'd be nice.
I mean, if you want to if you want to talk about me at all, I'd rather be the one saying it. But
That would be helpful, actually. I definitely think having you there to back up some of the elements of the story.
We can all go. It'd be great.
I had, thanks to my pack rat nature, I have several physical items of evidence from our journey that I can present to show that these are things that actually happened.
Oh yeah, it reminds me. He like opens up his backpack and pulls out like these several tomes that he had nicked from the
Yeah,
oh right, yeah.
that he nicked from the fire college.
yeah, all the
Yeah, I
those,
gotta go through those still. Thanks, man.
there were
No worries.
those, plus the ones from the Iron God's Temple.
Oh, yep, got those. Clank, clank.
That's right. They're metal.
They are bound in metal, yes.
They're not just band of metal. The pages are metal.
The Iron God.
The god of crafting.
Oh, the
Yeah.
God of crafting. Right. Okay. Like I didn't. I forgot. Those like that was the element that was prescribed there. But anyways, but Cameron is just like not that I don't trust your ability to relay the event, but I don't know if there's any ease. It's my story is strange enough when I'm the one telling it. When it's being told secondhand, I think that pushes it to a certain degree of absurdity for most to accept. It also depends how much you want to disclose.
It's always absurd. It's fine though.
Engineer nods, like, yes, I'm pretty sure the whole time travel bit probably should be left out of this.
Well,
This
as
is gonna
far
be-
as far as that matters, relations to the gates, that's still a tenuous tie at best.
Well, if they're like,
I don't see any necessity in mentioning that part.
we'll see what points come up.
Right.
I think
To the original question of what don't we say in this regard, I feel the matter is more what do we feel that this council would gain from knowing something that most major organizations would silence others over.
True, and we also need to remember that we're trying to make a good impression here because we need to ask them for access to the lower libraries.
right.
Oh right, yeah.
And the question, I guess one thought could be extraordinary requests require extraordinary collateral or extraordinary rationales. So, I guess if we were going to disclose anything particularly, I wouldn't say lurid, I'd say particularly sensitive, it would only be if absolutely necessary for that goal. And even then, I think kind of like what Cito's alluding to, there might be still some limits we're going to hit up against, and I'm not sure what those are, at least from my perspective.
Another point of consideration, there is of course the very real possibility that someone in this council may abuse this knowledge, but by another token, by introducing this knowledge to here, certainly the residents of this whole institution are trained in the martial manners But if someone was particularly intent on keeping people quiet, who's to say that it might not bring danger to the entire temple?
Ingeir just kind of nods. It's like, we need to tell them the gravity of the situation, but perhaps not some of the particulars.
Yeah. So, I think part of the whole thing too is the fact that you're trying to investigate the gates already, right? That was kind of part of what you were trying to look into, Ingeir.
Yeah, Ingeir nods. Like, yes, and that'll continue, I
Sure.
suspect.
I think the most important thing to really lean into is kind of what you and Cito found when you were investigating that one that was in the waters still, because that would at the very least put a pressure point on saying, listen, there's things that are not understood, and that lack of knowledge is a consistent threat to the livelihood of others. And
Did we tell the group about that?
I thought
We
that
did.
Cameron,
We did report that. I thought.
yeah,
Did
I
we
remember
refer
Cameron
that to the group?
distinctly
All right,
talking
it's
about
been a while. I don't remember, and Cito tends to not talk about things, so I wasn't certain.
Well, I mean, that's not all the details were given, but I believe that the basics of it were talked about.
Yeah, I'm looking at the notes. We did talk about it. Yes.
Okay. All right. Just wondering if we had like a continuity thing there.
I mean, in any case, what was I gonna say? Shoot. He was like, listen, and if their response to that is, really, really more on the cool side or on the, maybe it's not worth investigating sort of side, then that makes me probably more suspicious of the people up there than anything else about their ability to accept the gravity of the situation.
Yeah. So I don't know how much they know about what's going on. I have seldom had chance to speak with Abbot Patrin. He's off. He's usually handling more official duties. He may know things that the rest of them don't know. On the other hand, High Priest Creve might, who's directly in charge of the temple where the libraries are at, may have cut things to himself too.
I'm just saying, looking around here, most of these guys don't know much about nothing except like how to throw axes and do spins and whatnot.
Ingeir just kind of looks at Glick. So that's what happens. Most of the people that reside here they grew up here. All the kobolds are donated offspring. There's an ongoing deal with the surrounding territories, where if a kobold of draconic heritage is suspected, their egg is brought to the monastery or delivered to a monk. And all the dragonborns, most of them are orphans.
We got to get you out of here, man.
Like that does just sort of hits like another thing. Like, okay, in Cameron's head, it's like, okay, we got cult, we got this other sort of components going on there. Okay,
Go down to
Right.
the libraries, it's just giant pleasure piles.
They've got a ball pit.
Have you ever meditated in a ball pit before?
I never meditated before.
He's like,
But
yes.
it's a ball pit.
He's like,
So
she was like, yes, we are. I suppose most of us are sheltered. Only some of us never go out for supply runs. Even my going out was sort of an unusual thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we got to get you out of here more often, man.
Well, I believe Ingeir's leaving with us, anyways.
Yeah.
Said,
No,
still has work
he's
to do.
clearly leaving with us. Seriously,
Is
this
this-
place is boring.
Is there something that you've just learned that disturbs you or anything? Is that what's going on?
Who, me?
Yes.
I mean, A lot of things disturb me. Yeah.
I've noticed. I'm talking about in the immediate recency.
It's just so boring here. All anyone does is like practicing flips and doing cool stuff is great and all, but like, what else are you gonna do? Like, what are you gonna use it for?
Ingeir almost goes to say, like, to parrot the party line here, and he's just like, and he just kind of stops and doesn't say anything. Because now that thought's in his head too.
What do you
Well,
use
it's
all this for? Wait, what?
Zito strums once more. Well, if one were to actually seek an answer to that, I would place my money on there is a reason most don't realize what it is because they're not told. For all we know, this could be the training of a private army.
That's what's got me fucking creeped out about this place. Yeah, a bunch of people in charge that aren't letting anyone know what's going on. That's what's creeping me out about this place. That's it.
Mind, that's conjecture on my part.
No,
It is
that's
a
definitely what's
possibility.
happening. I could smell it. This nose ain't for show.
Mhm.
Ain't just for show. It's a very good show.
That doesn't deflate the point that that's entirely based on conjecture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm not saying you're wrong. It's just that you literally have no evidence at all whatsoever to back up that claim.
And jumping to a conclusion like that seems to be more of a spiky-haired tactic. So I would not really encourage.
I ain't got
too
no
much
hair.
further on that line.
What the hell does that even mean?
Phoenix Wright
I don't
reference
even
there.
have any.
Okay. It's like that could
That's
be,
usually more of a
that's
bluff,
some sort of
but
that's
okay.
some sort of anime theme, but that's some sort of anime something. But I'm like, but that could mean so many different things.
No, but there's still conjecture-based things that
Oh,
are
absolutely.
as well in Phoenix Wright.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
The amount of moon logic you gotta go through in order to come to the conclusions you're supposed to in some points in those games. Yeah.
We assumed that the body wasn't here.
What?
It was. But it literally was. We found it here. But what if it wasn't?
What if this isn't?
What
where
if
they
the
were
body was in fact a series of dreams you had once?
killed? No, more like what if this is not where the murder happened? Like it was moved here.
Yeah.
Get to the end of the case, and the as with every single one of Phoenix's trials, it comes up with mistrial. All right, my client's not getting thrown in jail. Ha ha.
But Cameron will just sort of like, I think any case that any answers we might be looking for are going to be found during this panel review you're going this peer review process you're going through Ingeir.
Yes. We just need to do our best, and hopefully we can get access to the under library. I'm also heard that there may be something down there that might give us a more direct line to somebody who might know somebody.
There's a little sort of rap on the door frame. The council is assembling. If you all would follow.
All right.
You're just kind of gulps. Is like, all right, let's do this.
You are led.
Kalia makes sure to put all of her armor on.
Okay.
For formal purposes.
Right, of course.
Well, she doesn't think anything's going to happen, but it's like, look, I'm going to be here in my official capacity.
What is with this kung fu treachery?
Right. And as you walk down the hallway, you notice eventually that you're sort of a bunch of other monks sort of fall into sort of, escort positions around you.
Uh-huh.
Bum, bum, ba-da-bum, bum.
Eventually, you arrive at the sort of the antechamber before the council room, and the monks who've been escorting you sort of walk past you and sort of form up alongside either side of the door into the chamber.
This is starting to smell a lot more like a trial than I'm comfortable with.
And then very shortly after, you hear a gong ring 3 times, And the door warden sort of bows to Ingeir. The council will now see you. And the doors open.
Ingeir just kind of strides in, motioning to his friends to follow.
There's several chairs that are set up for the party, sort of on back. There's a podium sort of in sort of the middle of the room has been set up, and then on the other side of the room, sort of raised, largely sort of, you walk in sort of into the sort of middle of the room where the chairs are set up, and there's a sort of a ring of sort of desks around the outside of the room. Behind each of one, there's 7 desks. It sits a different member of the council.
I think I have an image for this.
Yep. And in the middle,
Is it a dark room with like a column of light going down onto the podium?
Yeah, really.
no, there's not.
They don't have electricity here. Come on.
Magic crystals.
I mean, yeah, light can be easily provided with magic, so that's not why. But yeah, though the room is reasonably lit. In the middle, sort of opposite the door, is hang on, let me make sure I'm getting all this wrong. Here we go. Is Abbot Patron, who is a white dragonborn, very clearly sort of age, shall we say. Flanking him on either side is on one side is Master Kava, and on the other is a silver-colored kobold named Kriv.
Ingeir's kind of like whispering to the others. That's Kriv. That's Elder Veteran.
Yep. There's the other one of note is sort of halfway, sort of near the sort of nearest the door is a black-scaled kobold named which was Elder Breary.
That's Elder Beery. She's in charge of the library. And there's other people there, but they don't matter. So
they are not named currently.
they are not. They're not in charge. They're just part of the council.
Right. So Elderberry is the one we got to butter up. Gotcha.
And word, yes, not far off.
Oh, that's a trial theme from freaking Chrono Trigger in my head now.
Man, of all the trials, you picked that one.
Only because it's the most bullshit.
Okay, hang on. We just got finished discussing Phoenix Wright. You're not allowed to make that statement.
Have you ever been thrown in prison for stealing somebody's lunch?
I'm not saying it is.
Why? What have you heard?
I'm saying there's an order of magnitude here involved that you're not considering.
I'm just saying. It's pretty bullshit.
At any rate, the abbot sort of nods to Ingeir. Brother Ingeir, welcome back to the temple. We would be most grateful if you could enlighten us on what you have learned in relation to the task set before you on your journeys. Also, we would like formal introductions of your traveling companions would be most appreciated.
Of course. So, before we begin, I shall introduce my companions. We have, of course, Ingeir motions to Sito. We have Sito, Songstress at the Sea.
Ow.
Motions to Kalia. Kalia, servant of Mortis.
Champion.
Oh, right. Champion now. She's had a bit of a promotion recently.
Yeah, pretty much.
Motions to Glix. This is Glix, our faithful friend. Always has our back. And of course,
Well, someone's gotta.
somebody does. And of course, here is Cameron, our tactical genius.
Interesting. Thank you.
Yes,
So-
these are all companions that I met as I was about to leave Outpost 13. But that's not the start of the story.
Ah, very well. Please enlighten us on as to what you have discovered in regarding to the gates and whether they moved or not.
So, as was instructed, I headed to Outpost 13 and checked the nearby gate,
Mm-hmm.
and it has in fact slightly moved from its original location, noticeably so. Not so much that it wouldn't serve its function in the region, but that it shouldn't be where it is now. But that is only the start of this story. For you see, while trying to acquire funds to travel back to the monastery, my companions and I took on a job that diverted us to the nearby ruined temple of the primordial fire dragon.
There, a murmur goes up around the room.
Blasphemy.
No, not blasphemy, just a murmur. If it's a ruined temple you're investigating, why do they care?
Yeah.
Not like you're trying to join the fire dragon's cult.
Well,
We tried to join them. They were all dead. So we
Yeah.
while we were there, we did encounter some kobolds, but they were not the original residents of the temple. They were people that were something there. Although I did have the opportunity to meet a juvenile white dragon there. He was quite distressed. They were worshiping some sort of god, but that seemed a little beyond my purview there. However, what happened deeper in the temple was more concerning.
Oh.
There was a cult of Eucharia down there, and they were using
More murmurs of.
like what more? And they had a avatar of Eucharia, a blighted tree that they were using to control other trees in the area. When they were confronted, the cultists attacked, and we were forced to defend ourselves. But in the process, the avatar of Eucharia was destroyed, and at this point, he kind of he looks up and raises his finger. A gateway formed at the site of the murder.
One of the you do hear sort of under the breath of one of the council. Oh come on now. But it's very it's sort of. But
It happened. I buried my cleaver right in the damn thing. It sprayed like all kinds of like black goo all over me, and then it exploded. The building started to come down. This big like glowing rent in the air. So we had to jump through it or get buried.
If you wish to confirm our presence in such said area, we of course have some physical items here, but you could of course send somebody there to check. As I mentioned, there are residents there, or at least there were before the place exploded.
Interesting. We'll of course be happy to look at physical evidence once you're done describing the situation.
As we left this portal, we were transferred to an uncharted island somewhere in the ocean.
More murmurs.
Filled with some sort of primitive draconic beings. Not.
They had feathers. He points at the feather in his hat. This came from one of them.
Yes, they had feathers. I've never seen a feathered dragon before. And they didn't breathe fire either. It was very odd.
Just so that Cito doesn't interrupt in an opportune time, is Ingeir planning on mentioning that on a modern map it would be in the center of the like the big ocean expanse, like the center of the world?
Yeah, he will mention that, but that wouldn't happen until they got to the other island not on the map.
All right,
God,
so
this
you're
story.
all right, so Ingeir's getting there. All right, Cito will not
Just like-
interject.
It's like after we found another gateway there linked to some old dead water god. I'm not familiar with them. And this took us to another island where we found worshippers of she. They didn't call her she of the Submerged Voice, but it was the primal dragon of water. They had formed a society there. They were very welcoming, but not everyone on the island was quite as welcoming. The pirates, for one.
Uh-huh. Where and do you know where this island is?
From our best estimates, and from what I can gather from the maps I have looked at, it is somewhere dead center between all of the other continents.
In the
In the
middle of
middle
the
of
Starfall Ocean.
the middle of Starfall Ocean, there's some sort of water anomaly, some kind of constant storm around there. You can't go in or out.
I see.
It's not by boat.
You can go in, but getting out is a bit of a task.
Hence why all the residents there.
So they're shipwreck victims then.
Indeed.
Well, the
Yeah, of
pirates, at
course.
least. I don't know about the followers of She. They may have been there for another reason.
And what did they
It was
call
an-
what did they call she of the silent voice? On
I wrote this
island?
down. I know I did. Let me see if I can find it. Thank God.
I think you just said. I think Mega just said that on accident. I think it was the silent voice.
Nope,
that they
silent
called.
voice is his temple.
If Silent Voice is our temple.
I thought this was submerged voice.
I meant submerged voice. That was me misremembering.
Okay.
It was not just the silent voice. No, I actually do remember what it was, but
Jeez, Aztec Adventure.
it was she who swims. If my memory serves me.
She Who
sounds
Swims.
right.
Thank you. They called her She Who Swims. Such a primitive and inelegant name. They don't
Okay,
know.
Mr.
Much.
Judgmental.
But there's certain murmurs of somewhat disbelief. There is from except for two members of the council have sort of give sort of stares of which is Elder Barry, and the abbot. Both sort of have looks of
Yeah, there's a bit of a, I'd say, a frustrated sigh from Cameron at the whole like primitive name comment from Ingeir there.
So elegant. Do they not know the majesty of her song? Anyway, that was not the primary issue on the island. For you see, as we went through the island, we found temples to other fallen gods. There was some sort of crafting god there. He at this point he brings up the hammer that he has. Where I found this magical hammer. Very impressive. But the other one was more troubling. There was a temple to Mortis, surrounded by an army of the undead. To which he motions to Kalia. I'm sure our resident Mortis follower can confirm this and the direness of the situation.
She'll kind of nod. I don't know if you're trying to like seed the floor or anything. So
If she wanted to jump in and take a moment to talk, this would be the time to do it. Yeah.
Kali is not a very big on the public speaking, so she'll get involved if potentially if she deems it necessary. But you're doing a good job in her mind. So.
But I will say, as this goes on, you do notice that there are several members of the council have sort of increasing looks of just like utter, just sort of like, oh my god, I can't believe what this jackass is saying.
Ingeir's having none of it. He's going through it because this is a pile of shit, and you just kind of gotta keep going. Otherwise, you're going back into the shit.
Yeah,
I will pulling out books.
Yeah,
right. For evidence out of the backpack.
That's fair.
And
as you're doing that, Glix, you do notice Elderberry sort of, if she had eyebrows, she'd be arching them. But she's a kobold, so she doesn't. But she has a look of, there's very clearly a look of interest on her face.
I'll give her a wink and finger guns.
The only ones that are not giving sort of looks of sort of open disdain right now are Breary, the abbot, who sort of very clearly doesn't believe most of what he's hearing, but is reserving judgment for the time being. And weirdly, Kava doesn't look like she's. It's clear she doesn't really believe. Like it's a case of. Like, yeah, she does. Like, this all sounds like horse shit to her, but she is trying to. She's like, okay, I'm going to listen to all of this before I utterly dismiss the stupidity of this. But
I imagine, you know, the tall nature of this tale is kind of running up against. On the other hand, Injur is way better at fighting now than when Injur set out. So
Something happened.
clearly, there were some challenges.
She is. You earned a cookie point from her, so she's willing to listen to you at least.
At least the entire thing wasn't a waste of time.
He got something out of the trip. Great. It's like honestly, I will say this: like the impression you're getting is that it's pretty clear she really did. She never really cared particularly much about this whole journey. It's like that's not important. You learned something about you improved your martial skill. That's like, oh well, this trip has totally been worth it. I don't care about the rest of this bullshit, but I'll listen.
Like, you got better, and I didn't have to put up with this ass for a couple of months.
Sweet.
Maybe we should think about this training a bit more.
And Ingeir continues, and he talks about their experience at the Temple of Mortis and how they found there was evidence of a conspiracy between the gods to protect items there, and how they bravely defended the temple from the I don't want to say Lish, but like the
Dread Knight.
Yeah, the Dread Knight. That's a good name. From the Dread Knight, he doesn't embellish the story, but he does kind of like very much play up how Talia just kind of whooped his ass real hard.
Changed the damn fool to single combat in the magic circle, and he fell for it. I'm so proud of her.
It's hard to embellish that story, admittedly. So
And that's what she smote him, Your Honors. She smote him good.
During all of this, Cito is providing, suitable musical accompaniment, providing, an appropriate tempo for a given moment.
This part is kind of specifically why Kali didn't want to talk about this bit. It was like
during all this, Cameron is not really contributing, other than he's just pulling out his gun and just sort of like spinning it and investigating it, kind of idly on the side. Just sees his revolver oscillating over there a little bit.
After we saved the day at
You're not allowed to use that phrase.
No. After our encounter at the temple, we found that there was a way off the island that would get us back at least somewhere else. Because we couldn't leave the island any other way. We couldn't swim out. We could take a boat. We had to find a gateway. Unfortunately, the gateway we found was in the ownership of followers of the primordial dragon of fire. And at this point, he takes a gulp. He's like, and then the primordial dragon of fire showed up.
At which point, one of the ones who's been sort of muttering his breath for coming is, "Oh, come on! Are you? Why are we giving him the time of day on this?"
He didn't look at us, but he was definitely
He didn't
big
even
as this fucking temple. Seriously.
He was gigantic. And if you want evidence that we were even there, check my cell. That's where I left the clothes I came in on. They are clearly of that temple's make. You think I would willingly wear clothes like that if I didn't have to?
Hold on. I think I nicked something from there. It goes in the backpack. Shuffle. Pulls out a couple baubles he nicked from in there.
We were, when faced with the prospect of having to negotiate with a beast, we were lost. We didn't know what to do. And that is when we returned to this is where he mentions going to the tavern at the end of time. And this is probably the most bullshit thing of all. We opened the door and I led us to somewhere that wasn't on the island at all.
There's the particular counselor just has stopped saying it. He just sort of throws his hands up. It's like, what do I even do?
What, you never been there? Great food.
This is the part where Cameron's just like, was thinking, like, really? We're bringing this up? Just sort of rubs his head a bit. Just like.
And Ingeir just looks at Cameron, he's like, yes, like, how else did we get off the island? I'm not going to make anything up. Nothing could be more ludicrous than what actually happened.
I'm pretty sure I could try.
irrespective, I don't think is doing much to aid your case
Glix
here.
just tells the entire story verbatim, but everyone is wearing an increasingly ludicrous hat that they encounter.
When we left the tavern, there was some sort of anomaly, and we were separated from one of our companions. He motions to Cameron, and we ended up in some sort of underwater chamber.
There is suspicion of Fey involvement on that one.
This is true. We did offend a Fae along the way.
I mean, it's hard not to. Those guys are assholes.
And you just kind of like nods along. It's like, it's true. And this is where we met Lord Atrox. We had somehow landed in his resting place. And if you don't believe that, he's downstairs.
You can ask
Ask
him.
yourself.
There's very clearly a like, we don't want to believe this, but this is fact.
You're up on a fucking water. like Lord Atrox is an honorary dragon. After we requested him to take us to Soul Test to see if we could find our companion, and we did, thankfully. And at that point, our option to you, we decided to return here to not only give you this report, but also, I regretfully must ask for access to the lower libraries. We believe there is information down there that will point us to the next direction of this incredible discovery.
There's a sort of, you hear someone say, "Ha!" as if.
Listen, you want to look at the books, they're right here. But they're ours. You can't keep them, but I'll let you look at them.
I understand that this is a thing only the abbot himself can grant us, but I implore all of you to please believe this rather incredible tale that I have attempted to prove the best to my ability.
Very well.
Seriously, if you were lying, I'd never met a worse liar. You'd be able to tell right away if he was lying.
The abbot sort of. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Sketch.
Cameron's just sort of sizing them up and sort of trying to just get a read of.
Sure, give me an insight check if you'd like.
More or less, just like. All right. 21.
All right. Most of the council is of the sort of this is just all bullshit opinion. The abbot is sort of like, yeah, I'm not sure how much of this I believe, but I'm willing to look at the evidence. Elder Brewery is entirely being open-minded. And Master Kava's sort of like, again, doesn't really care about she just doesn't care.
Well, Cameron will just kind of look straight at the abbot for a moment and then just sort of states like, is there any further information that you would wish to hear about that could possibly what more needs to be said to provide credence and credibility to Ingeir's account here?
Well, what we would like to do is we'd like to see any physical evidence that Ingeir has brought back, or Ingeir and you all have brought back that you're willing to share with us, and then we will examine them.
I gestured towards the pile of books that I pulled out of my backpack.
Yes. We would like some time to study the physical evidence and to deliberate. And if we have any, if there
Kalia takes out her axe and transforms it into a staff.
Right. Interesting. We would like you to wait outside, and if we have any questions we would like answered, we will send someone out to bring someone in to if we need to ask questions. If you don't mind waiting outside, refreshments will be brought.
Great.
So is going to use message in this moment and is going to direct it to the abbot.
Okay.
And is going to state, the nature of our findings we are concealing for the safety of yourself and your community. There are many who are entirely willing to end communities for this knowledge. Be wary of that.
Anyways,
yeah, feel free to look through the books.
Message lets you reply, doesn't it?
Yeah.
No.
It does not.
Yeah, it does.
Hang
No,
on,
it
let me read this.
Sending does. I don't think message does though.
You point your finger at a creature within range, which is 120 feet. I'm making an assumption here. And whisper a message. The target, and only the target, hears the message. Oh, and can reply in a message.
Yeah.
Whisper that only you can hear. Okay.
the abbot sort of stares, cocks his head to his side, and says, "We will be the judge of that."
Very well.
In the meantime, as I said, we will call for you if we either after we end our deliberations or if we have questions.
Yeah, feel free to look at the books. Remember, they're ours. We're going to want them back.
We understand.
Ingeir also reaches into his cloak. He pulls out the rather fanciful fire dragon key that he got from the fire temple and puts that on top of the books.
Is that where that went? Oh, that's a good one. Wish I dicked that.
Oh yeah, that was his personal trophy. That was him when he bested their little puzzle there. He's like, oh yeah, I'm totally better than these fire dragon assholes.
All right. You are shown back out into the antechamber, and some minor refreshments are brought in, and time passes.
I pull out the gourd full of kelp liquor and pass it around.
Ingeir takes a mighty hit of that. He's like, oh god.
So, is that going as bad as I think it is? Elderberries seem to be all right with it.
I honestly think that was the best case it could have been. Even I even expected the one person to shout, "Oh, come on!"
Yeah. Well, true. I'm worried about whether that testimonial is useful in advancing the need to go into the libraries.
In my opinion, for such a temple as this, for one of its counselors to be so close-minded, may not be a very good sign.
Mm-hmm.
The only ones we got to worry about is the old guy and Elderberry. The other guys, fuck them.
Ingeir's like, Elderberry is very fair. She is the chosen representative of the temple. All the other positions are chosen through either combat or other traditional means, but for the people that haven't quite got there yet, they are allowed to elect a member of the council who mostly serves as a tiebreaker. I know her to be very fair. I work with her. I don't think she's going to be much of a problem here.
I don't often agree with Glix, but I do find myself in agreement that the abbot and Elderberry do seem to be our priorities in this moment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
even if they vote to keep us out. Wait a minute. I look around. What are the guards looking at?
The guards are basically just they are studiously not listening.
Right.
Well,
They honestly
So-
they just honestly do not. They are, yeah. Maybe they are listening, maybe not, but they are not like right on top of you. They're mostly guarding the door.
Cameron's just Cameron's almost worried, like. I also, if I'm not mistaken, you neglected to bring up anything about the academy campus that we explored. Ingeir.
Ingeir's like, yes, it's true. I forgot it in the moment. But
I mean,
I remember to keep out other things that were.
I'm going to be honest. Like they already didn't believe us. Like offing the Yukara thing, they're not going to buy us offing the Pyros thing either.
And it's not like we can point them to the island and they can investigate themselves now.
I mean, they could. They're just not going to get any word back.
I mean, you alluded to having them check the clothes that you brought from there, and my only thought is, how are they? What's that supposed to prove? You have clothes from a different culture. How does it prove it's from that specific culture?
I would imagine that they would recognize the handiwork of the rival temple, but
A rival temple that has been in isolation for centuries.
yeah, as he says it, Ingeir's just kind of like, oh shit.
No, that's evidence. That's evidence also. Like, it's clearly like fire dragon shit, but like it's It's been centuries since anyone's seen it, so it's going to be different because it'll have changed different.
I guess my only thought is
Yes,
from a
that's
from
it.
from an archaeological basis, if it's something like that, if there's no way to cross-reference it with anything, then it's just as easy for it to be as either authentic or a forgery. So,
Anyway,
I'm just
the books are our best bet, like especially those iron ones. Who makes iron books?
That is
Yep.
legitimate. Right now, these days, that is definitely a legit question.
yeah.
Like not
Well,
even dwarves do that.
yeah, and Cameron will also gesture to his effectively glass book. What he has.
Ingeir didn't mention explicitly because he didn't know if they would try to take it or not.
Right.
And of course,
Well,
Tito has her plate that she is incredibly protective of.
Also, similar reasons.
Mm-hmm. I'm just sort of, and I think the other point I made is like you also didn't even mention any like any inclination that the gates themselves might be a problem worth investigating.
Well,
Like you'd have to go into complete details, but like saying all this stuff happened and now it's just like, oh, and we should check the library.
we may have to let out that little bit of detail.
I mean, you already talked about the restaurant, so
The door opens at this point, and Elder Barry walks out, nods to the guards, and says, "Leave us." The guards nod and leave the room. Injir?
Elderberry?
She nods to everybody else. I have to ask, what is the reason you feel it's really necessary to have access to the lower libraries?
At this point, Ingeir looks to the others like, can I continue?
I mean, she's the one we got to be nice to, so yeah.
I didn't want to mention this in front of the entire council because we didn't have. This is dangerous knowledge. When we
That
were
it
on the
is.
island, when we were at the island, before we stumbled upon our escape, there was, as another suggested location of a gate that was supposed to be underwater. Sito and I traveled there, and what we found was a ruined city devoid of all life. All life. No, there were no fish swimming by. There were no plants. Even being nearby seemed to leech the life from us. It was as if the gate was trying to restart itself, using our own life.
And you wish to see
When
if we
we
might
get-
have. Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead, Nick.
Twice on our journey, we encountered the avatars of gods thought dead. When we defeated them, a gate opened near us, as if the echo of their deaths was what fueled the operation of the gates. And then, nearby, another was trying to fuel itself with the life of those surrounding it. It seems too close to be a coincidence, don't you think?
Quite possibly, yes.
If
Well,
if word of this gets out, some people may attempt to, well, stir up some trouble with the gods, as it were.
yes.
More pointedly, over the course of this journey, various, we'll say, influential figures have been attempting to court us for information on such things. High ranking Fae, for instance. And then there is the general proclamation by the gods that this is forbidden knowledge and all who pursue it are blasphemers who are to be put to the sword.
Yes.
Our
Interesting.
silence on the matter over the course of the whole telling of the tale, as I mentioned to the good abbot, are entirely in the purview of to protect the community here itself. Or if we share this knowledge with you and as much as we have acquired, then it puts yourself and your whole community at risk.
Yes.
Right
Interesting.
now, all there is the wild tale that, while truthful, many won't simply believe.
Yes. That you have surmised correctly, Injure.
Mm.
The debate does not go in your favor, despite the very interesting actual physical evidence you have brought. I don't think you will get enough votes to swing. There's enough truth there that no one can completely deny what you have found, and that you have provided some useful information about the gates. Therefore, I think overall your mission will be deemed a success, and I think they may be contemplating assigning a new one to you.
I see.
As to whether the council will vote to whether the council will vote to whether you will be likely be given access to the restricted libraries, I think that is possibly unlikely, but we will see. We'll see how the abbot is feeling about that. He's a hard one to read.
I mean, there's permission and there's permission.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Obviously, yeah.
But yes, Injira. Although whatever happens, I would like to have word with you, no matter what happens, before anything else later on, if you have time. Whenever you feel able to.
Of course, Elderberry. I can always make time for you.
Excellent. Well, I should head back in and rejoin the deliberations. My excuse for wanting to to stretch my legs and think can only go for so long.
I like to imagine Elderberry is like the kind of librarian that has like a little like candy tray at her desk, butterscotch cookies or something.
She leans out. You may re-enter to the guards, and she nods and heads back in.
And she looks at the others. It's up to them. If they say no, then we're going to have to possibly make a bad decision.
Ingeir, all decisions are bad decisions.
What?
Even just like, what?
I knew the streak was too good to last.
But they are.
How?
Because just listen, if we're going to do something stupid, we're going to do it stupid proper, all right?
I was agreeing with you up until the statement about decisions.
Cameron is just sort of like visibly just pacing a little bit back and forth, very much on edge about this whole thing.
Yep. After about another hour or so, you are summoned back. You are all summoned back into the room.
Oh, well,
Before we head off,
before we go in, actually,
Yep.
Kalia is going to kind of like glance at Glix. And she's going to kind of like let her eyes kind of like trail away from the group until he gets the idea.
right. Sort of slide on off.
Mm-hmm. And she'll kind of shuffle off after him.
Okay.
here's Kalia and Cedo sharing a brain cell, I think.
She's going to lean down. She's going to lean close, and she's going to say, "I know of late there hasn't been much in the way of trust between us. But if things don't go our way, I'll see if I can make an opportunity for you.
All right.
You're the only one that I think has the ability to get access to the knowledge that we need if we need to do so in a forceful or underhanded manner. I'll try to make an opening for you if we need to."
All right. I smell what you're cooking. Just Not sure exactly what I'm looking for, but I'll find something.
Yes, unfortunately, if we have to do things this way, it's going to be much, much, much harder. But there's too much at stake. We'll have to try, if it comes to it.
So long as I got my bag and just stuff it full of whatever.
8 hours later, Abbott, the lower library, it's gone.
It's gone.
What, like all the books are gone? No, the library's gone.
All right. You are
It's
shown.
just a sign that says "Eat it, Joe's." I finally got someone to laugh at an "Eat it, Joe's" joke. I'm so happy.
All right, so you head back in. The one who is making the most verbal, sort of most vocal objections has a very smug look on his. Actually, he's alternating between being very smug and a bit sort of like having a bit of a sign of sort of like a little bit of consternation. It's like, but then there's. Everyone
You
else
should see
is
a
pretty
physician about that,
Everyone
Fred.
else is pretty unreadable.
Okay, you've presented an opportunity for me to be a jackass. And
Okay.
I can't not take it.
Sure.
Theater's going to send a message to that individual and is just going to say, "You're going through so much right now. You might want to consider seeing a physician about that."
Consternation, not constipation.
Oh, I know, but the facial expressions read the same.
You get no reply.
I expect nothing.
Fair.
I got what I wanted.
Well, as you were shown back in, the abbot sort of nods and sort of gets to his feet slowly and says, Brother Ingeir, we thank you for your service to the temple. You have presented some very interesting information and many things for us to continue discussing and debating the merits of some elements of this, of what you have told us. The majority has decided on a vote of 4-3 that your mission has been deemed a success. And we have decided that, at the urging of Master Kava, that it's another task that you would be very well suited for outside the temple.
I see.
Yes, and I leave that to Master Kava to explain in a moment. As to the request for access to the restricted libraries, I'm afraid at this time we cannot grant access. Perhaps when you return from this following mission, we'll have time. We'll be able to reevaluate. We'll have had more time to study, more time to discuss what you have informed us of, and maybe some new information would provide us with better reasons to give you access to the libraries.
Ingeir, he's very clearly trying to keep it together because he's basically been told by at least half of the people that he's supposed to be respecting think he's a fucking liar.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just trying to keep it together. He's like, if this is what is required of me for the safety of all, I will do as you ask, as always, Abbott.
So
Charlie's
what?
going to stand up. If I make an inquiry of the council, with all that we have been through, is there some element of our story that you find not to be sufficient reason for us to gain access to this knowledge?
Let me think of how I want to phrase the response to that. To be honest, we need the veracity of some of this seems. Most of us do not doubt you believe that you experienced what you experienced. Whether your understanding of what you experienced is accurate or not is sort of more up for debate.
So we're not liars, we're idiots. That's nice to know.
You doubt that we traveled through portals to unreachable parts of the land.
No, that is not. That is clearly, given some of the evidence you've brought, that is clearly not up for debate.
Then what is the problem?
Whether what you experienced and your understanding of what you experienced is enough to merit access to the libraries. That is what is.
Are you
believe
sure
we?
you- Oh,
Do you believe we did not encounter gods and killed their avatars?
We are not certain that you did. We are certain that you believe you did, and that it seemed to you that you did. But whether that
Kali
was
is going to call down a divine aura around herself. With like the image of a reaper.
I guess that's my cue.
Okay.
Excuse me. Do you think that I know nothing of gods?
If that is not whether you know something of gods or not does not necessarily mean that you are always able to.
Have you killed a god?
Have you?
Yes.
So you
Just
believe?
because you have sat in your tiny chambers for your entire lives, thinking yourself improving by hiding away, judging yourself on your own merits, and those around you who tell you, who promise you that you are getting better, that all the time you spend wasting away is going to be worth it one day, while you sit here doing nothing, while the world outside suffers and dies and bleeds and hurts and loses those close to them, and you do nothing to help them. Just because you do that and tell yourself that you are accomplishing something doesn't mean you have the right to judge me, to judge my faith, to judge my actions. And if you think that you know more than me about this, then maybe you'd better prove it. And she's going to draw her axe. And she's going to point at the person who's been guffawing at Ingeir, and she's going to say, let's see what you know firsthand.
Okay.
Like Cameron's is like, well, I was just going to at least assert that the ones who don't understand are you, but I think Kalia here said basically the same thing in a more elegant phrasing.
So, out of character here, I just want to say this for the record. I was going to offer to have the belligerent jackass touch the crystal plate. That was my plan.
Yeah, I didn't think of that.
It's like, no. I will eliminate our strongest opposition right away. Boop. Where's your mind, fucker?
I mean, I'm making a distraction. If you want to work some way into that, go right ahead.
I've already rolled my stealth. I'm slipping out.
Yeah.
All right.
And I will say this: Nick's distraction is combined with that cell throw plenty.
I want to go forward with this. One, because it lets me be a jackass.
Fair.
Two, I feel like if there is a discovery, then if something goes wrong, then at the very least, this will be kind of like some more weight to our claim of the urgency of it, to justify why we're going to such lengths.
Okay.
So, Kalia, cuts her promo over there.
Pretty much.
Yeah. And Cedo is going to reach into her inventory and is going to produce the plate.
Okay. By the by, one thing, Ingeir, I'm going to say that you actually noticed this. As Kali is giving this speech, Kava looks increasingly impressed and amused and delighted by all of this.
And then she doesn't get pointed at.
It's like, wait, she's putting it. There is actually a brief moment of, aw, but I wanted to fight her. Oh, she's calling out that Oh, this is funny.
Good.
Like, all right, this is good. I'm in for it.
Oh, she's calling out the bureaucratic idiot. Beautiful.
Yeah, Ingeir's just there on the stage. Even as this is going, he's just like a tiny little bomb at this point. Like, if they do something terrible, one more terrible thing to him, he's just gonna fucking lose it.
And Cameron will throw in his own little quip, though. It's like saying, you do realize you're in the presence of the oldest scholar on the nature of the gods.
That's true.
So,
So
Cito.
if so,
Good.
no, but it's like, so you're just because you don't understand what we're talking about is not my problem unless you prevent me from getting information that I need to know.
So,
Anyway,
handling the plate very carefully, Cito is going to make her way over, making a show that she's not doing this in an armed fashion to the belligerent one. If you doubt us so completely and utterly, I present to you the strongest evidence that we have. It is incredibly dangerous, even to the touch. And I guarantee, if you have any doubts, they will be dispelled upon simply touching this. If you think me a liar, feel free. And she will offer it enough that a touch can be made, but she's very...
I'll put it this way.
Very ready to pull it back.
Very arrogantly sort of takes it from your hand and locks up.
Okay, he's not taking it from my hand, but...
Well, he's trying to, but...
Sure.
It's like, yeah, clink.
I can see forever.
Yep.
Yeah, he very much has that look on his face.
Mm-hmm.
Time
Cito
that we've all seen it
withdraw
before.
it. Because there's not going to be any resistance now.
Actually, his grip is kind of locked onto it at the moment.
Yeah, it's like if you're being electrocuted.
Yeah,
all
kind
the
of.
muscles. Basically, what's happened. Cameron will actually describe what's happening mechanically. It's like saying, it's like oh, don't worry too much. Your body's just going through a direct nervous system information transfer. It might cause a little bit of hypertension across your entire body.
While this is going on, Kali is going to almost disappointedly lower her axe and just say, "Oh, we could also handle things that way."
Kali, no, don't. Hey, listen.
No, you keep that up.
Okay.
Listen, that it's very difficult to process what's going through there, which should at the very least be a credit to Miss Cito's ability and expertise on the subject.
The abbot says, if I might inquire, what in blazes is that?
It's
In simplistic terms, this is a tome that expands itself directly into your mind rather than through your reading comprehension.
Mm-hmm.
And very specifically, the subject matter of this is the gates.
Ah. Interesting.
Right about at this moment, I would say that this...
Yeah, by the way, at that moment, the jackass sort of... He has his grip finally loosens and he sort of slumps back into his chair. Head lolling back into his sort of...
I see he has learned how the gates function. And
Basically,
Cito will return it to your inventory.
about a minute later, he sort of blinks.
Before he gets up, Ingeir says quietly to himself, "I bet he learned more than that."
Yeah, no, the words hard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that was interesting. I have much to process.
Uh-huh.
Oh,
I'm
you
sure
do.
You do.
It's quite intense. So, do you find our claims to be as fanciful as you initially thought?
Abbott, I think I might have to reverse my vote.
I rest my case.
It turns out he was actually one of the 3 that voted
Yeah.
in favor,
Oh, no.
and then
No, he was
now
the, no,
It's like, God damn it, we did it to the wrong person.
he very much voted against. Yeah.
I listen, Peter. You had a 4-3 split here. I had to just got, but
And the Abbot's like, oh, really? It's that convincing. Hard to argue. Direct informational transfer is hard to argue with Abbott.
it's very efficient, but yeah, not pleasant.
As you might imagine, this is my most prized possession.
Understandable.
I do not let others touch it lightly.
That is wise.
Cameron,
I imagine just like seeing this guy completely like 180 and be like completely cowed by all this is kind of a convincing argument in and of itself.
Again, I'll say this also. Kava looks incredibly amused by all of this.
I don't know what the hell just happened, but fuck that guy.
It's very clear she doesn't like this guy much at all. She doesn't have much respect for him either.
I suppose that we should. I believe it's time for a study session. So I think the sooner we move along for that, the better.
Yes. We'll want to find Glix first to do that.
Well, yeah.
Everyone's which one? The council looks around, and you actually hear a bark of laughter from Cubs. Oh, well played!
I mean,
I didn't see the little buggers leave the room.
it's good at that. It's good at that.
He's quite the trickster.
I'll be taking those books back, by the way.
Yeah. The Abbot's like, well, it is given the situation very well, you may have access to the restricted library. But before you leave, Kava, you should probably tell Ingeir. We do still want you to do. Kava still wants to send. Does still have the task for you, Ingeir. If you would please wait before heading down to the restricted library.
Ingeir just kind of like nods. He's still a little bit angry about what's been going on.
That's
and he's
that's
doing
totally
his best not.
and that's totally fair. Kava's like, okay. Honestly, Ingeir, you have far exceeded anything I thought you capable of. That is on me. I underestimated you.
It actually looked up a little bit like, what? Like, what the fuck?
I think you might be the correct choice to. We've received some interesting information from some traders from Dragosia. That there is something of concern about the gate nearest the capital of Dragosia. We would like you to investigate the gate and see if anything see if anything needs to be done about it, and see if what's happening is having any influence in Dragosia. They have provided much for the temple over the years, and we would. I, at very least, she says, glaring at the bureaucratic jackass, would like to see the favors returned.
I see. It is true. We have much to be thankful for our friends. I will do as you ask, of course. And hopefully this will lead us further along the path.
Indeed. I look forward to seeing how your skills improve next time.
Ingeir kind of just smiles a bit looking down. I can't wait.
Elderberry, if you would show them to the library. Of course.
We get down there, Glix is about to pick the lock on the door.
Just sitting there looking at this like giant puzzle on the door. Is like, huh.
It's a Rubik's Cube.
He's just like, what the hell is this? What is this? What is the secret to all life? What kind of a lock is this?
Money, obviously.
Money. What if I put gold in the slot?
see now I'm just thinking about speed runs of Secret Monkey Island 1, where there's a safe you have to open, and the current strategy for beating the game as fast as possible is to not learn the combination and just guess the combination.
Oh wow!
I
And
think it's the same between each playthrough.
no, it's not. It's
not?
randomized every playthrough.
Oh, so you just
So
gotta
you-
get
so
you just gotta get lucky guessing the combination
You
in
you
order to
have
save yourself
15
time.
attempts before you start losing time on it. So if you're doing a run where you're allowing like saves and reloads, you attempt to pick the lock with 15 specific sequences, and if none of them work, you're reset. The current world record time for the game, which is 27 minutes 30 seconds, was done live on a Games Done Quick stream in which they got that safe in the first 3 attempts.
Nice.
Very nice.
All right. Anyways,
So anyways,
so
Interesting.
you leave the chamber, Elderberry walking with you, and she starts nodding along. And as the doors close, she leans in and says, Ingeir, I was just going to give you the key.
She's like, what?
You didn't give me that's why I asked you to come down to the library afterwards. I couldn't just say it out loud in the room here, but
Ingir's just like,
Right.
oh, like, at this point, like, all the energy now leaves his body. He's just like, fuck.
But I admit, seeing him get his comeuppance was amusing. I have not seen Kava that delighted in this situation in quite some time.
I've never seen Master Kaba that happy.
I never leave an audience disappointed.
Well, come along. We should find your goblin friend before he does something wrong with the lock and electrocutes himself, possibly.
what? Oh, that's. You know what? Maybe we should take 2 fast getting down there.
All right. I will say you guys arrived down at the door to the restricted library. Glix, what has been going on? If you would like to give me a lockpick roll, you may.
I will.
Whatever the skill for that is, I forget what it is.
I think
Just
it's actually
sleight of
based
hand.
on.
It's sleight of hand. That's right.
Yeah.
It's right, Simon, yeah.
All right. So you have made a fair bit of progress. You've not rolled badly enough to actually injure yourself on the lock.
Right.
You're basically at the point where it's like, and then I do. Oh no! If I do that, that'll set off that trap.
That's a rune. That's a trap. Okay.
It's like, okay, now we got binding on 3. Gotta click out of 2,
And you hear sort of a, ooh, you managed to avoid a rather nasty pitfall there.
Yeah.
As Master Barry walks into the room.
Hi, Glix.
They changed their minds.
Yep.
Oh, so you killed the bastard?
No.
I would have if I needed to.
You should be thanking Cito.
Well, let us in.
Right, that's what I'm about to do.
Excellent.
If you could actually close up the last 2 steps, that would be safer for me.
Right. Click, click, schlack, schlack.
Right, and then she
Like-
reaches in, pulls out a key ring, and click. All right, and the door opens. There you are. There you go. Make use of the library as you see fit for the day. If you need more time later, I will let you back in later. But
All right. Well, we'll make sure to return. We'll make sure to return the library and recheck it out if necessary. I'm used to this procedure.
yes, I will be at my desk for a little while at least. It is a bit late, but yes. And that is where we're going to leave off for the session.
Before we head off,
that's fine.
Cito will scoot over to Kalia real quick.
okay.
I apologize for one-upping your performance, but I felt that was a bit more of a simplistic solution. I hope you don't mind.
I do not. Besides, I thought you were the one who did the one-upsmanship in this group.
I don't need to one-up anyone. I am the best.
I feel that that's an adequate response to my comment, so I'll just leave it.
I have nothing to prove.
I know.
Cameron from Ellsworth is just like, think about it. I still think that I'm probably actually capable of handling that data set there. It's from my time, but I'll worry about it later.
Yeah, there's scene.
Yeah. But yeah, I think this is a good spot to wrap up on. Thank you, everybody, for watching. I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you liked it, like, comment, share, subscribe, blah, 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 blah. You know the deal. I think we'll be back next week. Asterisk, dagger, star, question mark.
We better be.
I'm hoping we'll be.
Yeah, hopefully.
It won't be on my account if we aren't.
Yeah. Anyways, Thank you, everybody, for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and we'll be back next time, hopefully next week. See you soon. Take care. Have a great rest of your day or whatever. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.